So in the last 12 months, it has been $100,000, give or take. But I hadn't really heard about copywriting until September 2020. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Hey guys, in this video I'm sharing a 1 hour long conversation I had with a copywriter who got started only 3 years ago and now pulls in $100,000 in the last 12 months. So I'm going to be asking her a whole bunch of questions, so get ready to learn a lot.
At the moment I have 6 or 7 clients. I tend to balance quite a lot of clients. I don't like getting bored. I like having lots of irons in the fire.
So if you want to know what a day in the life of a copywriter looks like and how to get clients and keep them, what tools make the magic happen, or maybe how much you could earn in this field. So we'll dig into these questions and many more of these questions, like how to do market research, the challenges of freelancing platforms like Upwork, and even how Peta got started in this copywriting career. Let's dive in. Can you tell me exactly what you do and what you do to make your money?
My name is Peta. I am a copywriter and messaging strategist. I mainly help health and well-being startups or coaches to stand out in a crowded marketplace, help them weave their values through their messaging, help their personality really stand out and talk to their ideal client and saying exactly the transformation that they could provide.
A copywriter, it's a pretty broad thing. Can you be a little bit more practical? What you do on a day-to-day basis to be a copywriter?
Mm-hmm. So I work with brands on their messages. So we dive into researching what their offers are or their product, who their ideal audience is, and the kind of problems that they have. And then I look at the market, what the market is doing in their particular kind of area, and I find common threads and pull out key messages and key stories, sticky stories that I know will resonate with their audience and help them sell their thing. And then off the back of that brand messaging work, I write their website. I come up with their content strategy for social media and for blog articles. And I will sometimes go on to write those blog articles too. I don't do a lot of social media writing. It's not my favorite thing. And I will help them with their email funnels too. So the nurture emails that they send out to all those annoying emails that you get in your inbox when you sign up for something, I help them be less annoying.
Can you put it in buckets? Like how much percent would you spend on, for example, writing blog articles versus maybe writing sales copy or social media copy? Like how much percent on a day-to-day basis would you spend on maybe do you have like an 80% bucket, or is it not that?
No, I think probably 50% is on the messaging. So like the research that goes into working out what you have to say. And
the research, yes. 50% is researching.
Yeah, definitely. So including surveying and interviewing customers, like past customers, review mining on the internet, all that kind of thing, talking to the founders, the coaches themselves, working out kind of what their passion is, what their vision, and then putting that all together. So that probably is about 50% of my time.
Researching, yeah.
And then the rest it's probably, I reckon, 30% websites and maybe 20% the content strategy.
And websites, you mean like sales copy or blog content?
So I mean, sales copy. So the actual website pages.
Okay, and then sometimes there is blog content.
Occasionally, yeah.
But mainly it's like the actual sales copy to convert visitors in paying customers.
Yes.
And you mentioned health and well-being coaches and
startups.
Coaches and startups.
I've been working with more startups recently. So, for example, I'm working with a HR tech company at the moment. So they've made a platform that helps businesses improve the well-being of their staff, and the website is trying to sell that platform. So I worked with them on their brand messaging. And I'm just finishing off their website copy now. And then,
can you share the website, or is it like
not
a
really
private
yet?
thing?
No, I'm just finishing off. I can let people know once it goes live, but it's not quite there yet. Tiny tweaks, it's always the way.
But that's like a subscription service for business to business subscription service for focusing on health of employees. That's the idea.
Yeah. So they help you reduce staff turnover by finding out what the problems are in your organization and with people's well-being before you can't fix them anymore. So it's about getting in there on the kind of at the beginning.
A pretty big promise.
It is. Yeah. No, it's a great platform. I'm really excited about it.
Is it a proven concept or is it?
Yeah. So they've been running for I think 6 years, but we've been doing like a brand revamp.
So they already they already had a website, so it's now a new website basically. Okay, and
obviously
you are the only hope so. And you are the only copywriter they hired, or are there more copywriters or a bigger team?
Just me. So we're working on the website first, and then I think we'll probably go on to work on some more kind of sales assets, so some emails or and probably some brochures and things.
And is that a big client of yours? Like if you look at the proportion of your monthly revenue?
So I think at the moment I have 6 or 7 clients. I tend to balance quite a lot of clients. I don't like getting bored. I like having lots of irons in the fire. So I think that they're probably a medium-sized client, I think.
And 6 to 7 clients. How long does this client typically stay with you?
So normally a brand messaging and website project, which is kind of my signature package, normally takes between 5 to 7 weeks, and we'll do the whole thing in that. And then if they have more things that they'd like me to do, then I might stick around, or it might be like, that's the defined kind of project.
And can you explain the business model behind it? So do they hire you on the hourly basis, or is it a project?
No, I always do project fee. That way, everybody knows up front what they're going to have to pay and what the commitment is. And then it's like the risk is on me. If I don't get it done in a time that kind of financially makes sense for me, then that's my problem. Like I need to be as efficient as I can be. I have 2 kids at home, and time is a bit manic. And
a busy mom.
Busy mom. And there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to sit down for 5 hours in one day and book those 5 hours. Like, so to me, it makes sense to go by project rather than it does to go by hourly.
And can you explain what the fee is? So you mentioned 5 to, what was it? 5 to how many weeks?
It's 5 to 7 weeks. But I work with several at a time, so they generally all overlap. A brand messaging and website project starts at $4,500, but that depends on how big the website is. That's for about a 3 to 5 page website. If there are like 15 to 20 pages or something, then obviously that part of the project costs more, but that's the general idea.
Does it also depend on the number of words they want on their
No, not necessarily. So I don't charge by the word, because it's often harder to write fewer words that still convey what it is that you're trying to say than it is to just like blather on for ages. Like I could fill 1,000 words talking about something, but it wouldn't be as effective if there were like 350. And so if I charge by the word, then that means that I get less money for that.
Exactly. So if we go back to that earlier client you described, of the company that made that platform, how many pages are for that typical client? For that, how many pages were you writing, or are you still writing?
So there are 6 pages for them. One is a pricing page, which is fairly kind of, it doesn't have a huge amount of copy on it that takes a long time. There's the privacy page for them is incredibly important. Because they the privacy page.
Okay. So the privacy page.
Privacy.
Yeah. It's just the UK and the Netherlands. My English is not too bad. Not too
your
good,
English
maybe.
is brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So the privacy page is really, really important for them because they're looking at people's data. So they need to be able to convince the companies that they are pitching or that they want to kind of buy their platform, that they are taking care of their privacy, that they're not kind of holding on to massive amounts of information that they can and then doing something that they shouldn't with it. So
is it a UK-based company?
No, they're in Canada.
No, okay.
And they work, at the moment they work in the States and in Canada, and they're looking to kind of expand into Europe. So
that would be pretty hard, I feel, because then you also need to be aware of all the legal things, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to do after we finish this initial website is we're going to look at what the website needs to be, how the website needs to be slightly different for the different audiences in terms of kind of the legal ramifications. So that will be an extra thing. But right now we're just focusing on like the Canadian US market for this one. But yeah, so that was a really important page. It took quite a lot of time, quite a lot of revisions to work out.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
But are you also the one like doing the research for all those legal boundaries, or
No.
is that someone else?
No, I'm not an expert. So
Exactly, yeah.
they give me the terminology, the language that needs to be in there, and then I make it sound better without losing any of the legal the legal stuff.
You basically make a privacy page, which normally no one reads, right? Maybe normally it's a bit boring, right? And you make it a little bit more convincing and fun to read it, and to try to persuade the reader into like, okay, they have our privacy concerns on top of their mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were saying there was the privacy page, the pricing page, and then for that particular client.
Yep, there's the homepage, obviously, where everybody ends up, which is really important because you've only got a few seconds to kind of grab people's attention. The about page, their story. About pages are my favorite pages to write. I think a lot of companies phone them in. They're like, well, they just write something. We were founded at such and such, and these are the kind of people we work with, and we're all very lovely, and now move on to a different page. But if someone clicks onto your about page, then that means that they are interested in what you are trying to sell them, but they need to trust you a little bit more. Yeah. And so it's an incredibly important opportunity for you to show them why they should trust you and why you are credible, and they should buy your thing or work with you. So I really like playing around with it, making it very personable, making it less like a resume and more like a story.
So for the typical client, we're like about five pages, or
yeah. So homepage, about page. And then normally you'll have some kind of services or product page, depending on what kind of business it is. So for this HR tech, we've got a product page, and then we've got a how it works page, because there's a technical element to it that kind of needs explaining a little bit more. So gave them a little bit more space to do that with mixing the explanation in with some graphics and kind of animations and stuff like that.
And you don't do anything about the design. It's just the words.
Yes.
And then they need to pick it up and create a design around it.
Yeah. So normally I will either work with their in-house design team, or a client will contract me to do the copywriting, and they'll contract a designer, and then we'll work together. So I'll look at the wireframes of all the web pages and go, well, yeah, I need a little bit more space there, or let's put a picture there.
And with this particular client, you already done the heavy lifting, like you already did the research and all the writing, or what's the stage of this particular client?
Yeah, we are just on revisions now. So for each project, I normally have a couple of rounds of revisions where I'll send them the draft. They'll kind of send me back feedback. So we're on, I think, probably the final round of revisions. I just need to do some tweaks. And then the wireframe's all sorted. It goes off to them, and they'll let me know when it goes live, which is always very exciting.
And maybe this is a good time to like a crossover for the tools you use. So can you mention what kind of tools you use for your work?
So I use Zoom for all my client calls, and then I use Descript to transcribe them all, which means I don't miss anything. I can go through, pick out if I'm doing their customer interviews, then I can go through and I can pick out common threads, like common problems that people have, pull out that language.
Smart, yeah.
That's cool. So Zoom and Descript are really good. I use Typeform for surveys, so that's for my initial questionnaire.
Maybe if we can go back a little bit, like Descript. I know Descript myself, but maybe for the ones that don't know Descript, maybe can you explain a little bit what Descript is?
So Descript is a transcription software and a recording software. You can record things directly on it as well. Yeah. But you can transcribe and edit things. So if you, for example, if you were recording a podcast, you could pop it into Descript and you can edit it from the text and it edits the audio track.
Text-based editor, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But you use it actually internally, so you don't publish those conversations?
I'm in the process of developing my own podcast, so I'm using it for that. But for my internal work, It's basically so that it's a really good transcriber. It's better than the other ones that different ones that I've used.
It saves you times.
It does.
Instead of like going through the interview, in the video interview, you just scan the actual text, the transcript of the interview you do with those customers.
Mm-hmm. And you can search, you can search for different words or different phrases and jump around. That's quite helpful too. So yeah, Descript's great. What else do I use? Typeform is how I send surveys. So you can create your own questionnaires, your own forms with no code. It's really easy. And then they'll collate all the responses for you. So I'll use that
also to survey the customers of your clients.
Yeah. And I also use it for the questionnaire that I send to my clients when we kick off the project, so I can get a better understanding of their brand and kind of their customer base and their.
Is it a long questionnaire what you send to your clients?
So it's probably about 20 to 30 questions, depending on how established they are. They're a brand new company. There are lots of questions that I can't ask them because they won't know. If they're more established, then it's longer.
Is it a personalized questionnaire, or do you have like a default questionnaire and send it over?
Yeah, so I have a default one, but I will adapt it or personalize it depending on who the client is. Again, because there are some things that won't be relevant.
Can you share maybe one question you feel is the most important question, or the answer you get from that one question is like of enormous value to you?
Yeah. So the question that I probably get the most out of is, why do you do what you do? And it's really simple, but it gets me a lot of information about the mission behind the brand, behind the company, often why they started. So what the initial kind of catalyst was, the problem that they had that kicked it all off, the idea that sparked. It often tells me quite a lot about the personality of the founder or the coach, which helps me when I'm writing, because it helps me sound like them. And it puts that kind of, I can put that passion and that vision and mission into the copy that I write, which makes it a lot more interesting than just, we're trying to sell this thing and this is the price that it is.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good strategy actually. It's the first survey our actual clients, and then the next step is to survey the customers of the clients. Of the client. Can you share an important question you have for the customer of those clients you have? Yeah.
So the way that I like to frame it is I like to get them to think back to what was going on in their life when they bought or when they kind of signed up for whatever the products or whatever the service is. So I don't ask them why they bought it, because that's quite a closed question. Because it could be something like, it pops up on an ad, or somebody told me about it, or I got an email. And whereas that's helpful analytic information, it's not helpful knowing about where they were, because where that customer was just before they bought is where the potential rest of the audience is right now. So if I can speak to them in that moment with language that like resonates with them, that makes sense, if I can show them that I understand them in that moment, then they are more likely to buy, essentially.
So sometimes you use the type form for surveying the customers, but also you do in person. There's someone at the door. I'm not sure if you hear it. Okay, but we just forget about it. Yeah, but do you sometimes use the type form for surveying your customers, basically, or so sometimes you also use Zoom, right? You said.
Yeah. So I will try and survey as many of the customers as possible. So it could be 10 to 15. We could do 30. But I can't talk to that many people individually because that would take like months.
Really time consuming.
Yeah. So I will normally pick 3 to 4 past clients. Normally they will be recommended by my client, like who they think I should talk to. And we'll sit down for about 45 minutes and we'll talk through similar questions to the ones in the survey, but the conversation will be more organic. So I'll let it flow. Yeah. And that's a lot easier when you're kind of talking to somebody in person. So before I was a copywriter, I was a youth worker or youth counsellor for about 15 years. So I have spent an awful lot of time practicing building relationships, practicing guiding conversations, practicing noticing what people are saying or what they're not saying. And all that is really helpful when I'm face to face with a client or a customer of a client, to help me get to the root of what it is that made them buy or problem this particular service or product actually solved for them, which often isn't the one that you think it is.
Yeah. Cool. Like the psychology behind
definitely.
behind it. Yeah. And your clients, are they basically business to business businesses, or are they also businesses to consumer
they're both
products?
So the coaches tend to be business to consumer, and then the startups are generally business to business.
Because I feel the reason I'm asking actually is because I feel maybe businesses are more likely, if they are more involved in the product that a company is selling, they're more likely maybe to hop on a Zoom call or answer the survey, or maybe it's a little harder if the actual personal business that is buying your customers' products or services, if they are not that involved in that transaction, maybe they don't want to do that type of thing or hop on a Zoom call. Or maybe do you have any like advice or like maybe what's in your head about any strategies on how to convince people to get on a type form thing or hop on a Zoom call? Or is it really easy to get those people to fill in those type forms? And
not always. No. I think it helps. It helps when my client can see the value of doing that. Because then they're more likely to, not push in a kind of horrible way, but they're more likely to recommend that this would be helpful.
Okay.
So if I can convince my client that the information that we will get from these surveys and these interviews will increase their revenue, like it will increase their sales, because the language that I have at my disposal will be more convincing.
Exactly.
Then that I normally get a greater level of buy-in from them and then from their customer. If somebody is finding it difficult to get like a business to business number of clients or customers, then I usually suggest offering some kind of incentive. And what that incentive is will depend on how comfortable the client is or what the service is that they're buying. So I don't know, a percentage off their next project, or off their next subscription payment, or a small gift, or even some kind of strategy call or something. But and it doesn't have to be huge, because people like being helpful. And I think often if you're finding it difficult to get a buy-in for surveys and interviews, it's because your client is worried about bothering their clients or their customers. They're worried about taking up people's time. They're worried about being annoying. But what I have found is actually when you ask them, they're like, yeah, sure. As long as it's not a 5-hour seminar that they have to come to. And it's a simple process. So something like a type form where they can easy to follow, they just click on the buttons, whatever. If it's simple, and if it's a reasonable time commitment, then they're quite willing to be helpful.
I do feel like you have to start this survey thing at the first week.
Yes.
You start up
Definitely.
with your clients, right?
Yeah,
because those clients those customers need to have some time to fill in that survey, and that will take a large portion of the entire 8-week process of your entire process of the entire project, basically.
Yes, definitely. And it's the first thing that I so it will be what I send in the first email to my client is get these in the diary or send these off now.
Exactly.
And then I will go off and do more general research while that's happening, and then the kind of the more specific information and detail from those surveys and interviews.
Do you have some templates for your clients? So maybe send a newsletter to your customers. You can use this template, for example, or do you not? You do that?
Yeah, no, I do. So I will mock up emails that they can adapt kind of however they want.
So that's also part of the entire package you're delivering. Yeah,
because I mean, in the end, it benefits me the more information that I can get. So the easier that I make it for everybody, the better.
Yeah.
And then if I can't, if they really don't want to, or if they're finding it difficult, then generally most B2B customers will record at least some of their sales calls. So they're like my backup.
Okay.
So I get to see the process, and I get to hear from kind of customers, and I get to hear the questions that they consistently get asked, so that we can answer those questions up on the website before people even get on sales call.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned Zoom, Descript, Typeform. What else was the?
What else have we got? ClickUp is how I organize, my life generally.
I don't know ClickUp.
You don't know ClickUp?
What is,
yeah.
No,
so it's a project management tool. And I like that you can look at
one
things
app to replace them all.
Indeed.
I'm just,
it's a good tagline.
You wrote that? Or?
No, I was.
Okay.
So you can have like a Kanban view, a board view, or like a timeline view. You can, it really helps me for capacity planning. So because I have so many clients at one time, that's great. And it keeps me fresh and creative, but it means that I really need to keep on top of like all of my deadlines and where every project is. So
do you give your clients access to this tool as well, so they can? Or is it only like for you?
That's just for me. I know some people who do. For me, that feels like just another thing to have to manage.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it feels like I would have to be slightly more performative in what I put into the tool, rather than if it's just for me, then I don't need to think about how it looks. That it took.
Is it a free tool? Like if you use it in a free?
I think there is. Yeah, you can have. So there's a free version, and then there are different payment plans. But if it's just
are you on a payment plan, or do you use the free version?
So I'm on the payment plan, which I think is like £15 or something a month. And the only reason I am is because I really like the timeline feature.
Is it?
And that really works for my brain. So I think I've paid extra to get that, because
do you also have tried other tools like maybe I think Trello or Asana or Notion? I feel have some similar
Asana
features.
Asana was my first one. I like the little unicorn that flies off into the distance when you complete a task. That's quite nice. But it's like hooray.
Yeah.
But by itself, that didn't help me too much. Asana felt quite messy to me and it just didn't really work. And then I moved on to Trello. And while Trello was great, being able to map out when different things were happening wasn't as easy. And what I really, the thing that at that point in my business I was really struggling with was realistically planning my capacity and not just saying yes to everybody, because I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. ClickUp really helps me with that, which is good.
Any other software tools you use for your business?
Upwork, but that's not really
it's an important part of your business, but
the other thing that I do is I use Loom. So I will, when I've finished my brand messaging guides, which is the first stage of my project, and I put it all together in a PDF, and I send it to the client. But that can be quite overwhelming. And I find that it works better if you can walk people through it, because I work across different time zones. And because the people I work with, like, they're running businesses, they're very busy people. Scheduling in a meeting at that point to go through it in person often slows down the timeline if they're away, or if they've got too many meetings. And so I will go through the PDF in a Loom video for them, and I will lay out my thinking behind the different sections. I will highlight things that I think are really important that they need to pay attention to. I might ask specific questions. For example, if I've come up with 2 ideas for something, I might kind of say, right, can you give me an idea of which one it is that you prefer? So I will take them through the whole document, and then I will send that Loom video along with the PDF in the email.
It's just a link, or how does the Loom work?
Yeah, it's just a link. So you record the video, and you can record
like a screen share, basically.
You can record a screen. You can have a little camera in the corner if you want to with your face, or you can not if it's early in the morning and you're not really feeling it. And then it kind of, Loom hosts it, and you just send a private link in an email to your client. Okay,
it's also way more personal probably than just sending an email and explaining it.
Definitely. And Loom is great for proposals too. So if I am if I've spoken to a client, or if I've been on Upwork and I've seen a job that I like the look of, then if I can, depending on what details they give me, I will send a Loom video giving a bit of an idea about what my strategy would be, or what my ideas would be, or how the process works. I will send that along with my proposal. So again, it is more personal. I think, it's less likely to get kind of ignored or pushed down the inbox, but it works really well.
Okay.
Any other tools? I just want the entire package,
Just
you know.
all
So
of
I'm
them.
just going to keep
Yeah,
going.
for ages.
Yeah. Okay. Is that really that big of a list?
So yeah, it's fairly big.
Okay.
Canva's great.
How many percent are we at now?
We're about like 75% of the way through. You're okay.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. Canva. Yeah.
Canva's great. So I use Canva for social media posts and things.
For yourself
For
or for your clients?
For myself,
Okay.
generally. I try not to get involved in the design of anything for my clients
Yeah.
because I'm not a designer. And I would be doing them a disservice with my
And what social
stickman
media
drawings.
profiles are you most active on? What social media?
Instagram and LinkedIn mostly. On Instagram, I speak mainly to coaches and course creators. And then on LinkedIn, I speak to startups and kind of more B2B businesses.
Are you at the beginning stages of building your social media profiles, or are you already
No, I'm fairly established, I think. They could always grow. I've been on Instagram for a couple of years now with the business. I've got fairly kind of, good following. Well, I think it's cool. It's fairly engaged. And then LinkedIn, I kind of started taking LinkedIn seriously probably in September, I think. Before then, I was on it, but I wasn't. It seemed a bit stuffy and not really my kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I started being myself, and it's a lot more fun now.
And do you feel there's a lot of clientele coming from those different platforms?
Definitely.
Or
Instagram's not so great for clients. It's really good for engagement, really good for building kind of network. But I feel at the stage that I am now, the companies, the brands that I want to work with, the people who run them are not on Instagram. They have social media managers. So they're not they might take notice of my content, but they're not necessarily going to send me a DM and go, we should really work together. Whereas with LinkedIn, it's slightly different. So with LinkedIn, founders of the kind of startups that I like working with, they are on LinkedIn. They are commenting, they are making connections. And so probably the majority of my leads outside of Upwork at the moment are coming from LinkedIn.
and what's the reason you're still continuing with Instagram? Or you mentioned engagement. Well, what's
having a profile that's active and engaged is really good for when someone Googles me or when someone pops me into the search bar. So if I'm there and I'm putting out content, then I look more credible. It kind of gives me a bigger presence. And I put similar things on both platforms, so it doesn't really take me a huge amount of extra time. It's just there.
And you just mentioned where I'm at right now with the business, at the stage where I'm at with the business. I feel my ideal clients are more on LinkedIn than Instagram. Maybe that's a good crossover to mention your revenue.
Yeah, so in the last 12 months, it has been $100,000, give or take, in terms of revenue. And then, which translates to, I think about $60,000. My overheads are not high. I work from home. I don't have any subcontractors. So it's not bad.
That's really nice.
It's not bad. It's exciting.
It's also, I'm also curious, how much hours do you work roughly in a week or
so I work,
on average?
Yeah, so I work 5 days a week. My husband does the majority of the outside school childcare, has done since September, which is nice. I started
Since September last year?
Yes, yeah.
Because your business was ramping up, or what was the
I started this as kind of a part-time thing in lockdown, so I could make some money while nobody could go anywhere and the kids were all stuck at home too. And I didn't have an awful amount of time.
Were you already like an expert? So sorry for interrupting, but were you already an expert at copywriting back then, or like during the lockdown?
No, so I have always written in all of my jobs. So I wrote when I was a youth worker. I wrote all of the curriculum stuff that we did. When I was a lecturer, after that, I wrote all of my own kind of stuff. Then my own material. But I hadn't really heard about copywriting until September 2020. I didn't even know it was a thing.
I do feel you are at an expert level right now because just the processes you have, and it's really nice. Well, but continue.
No, it has been incredibly interesting, and I'm the kind of person that when I find out about something that kind of takes my interest, then I'm all in. Like I will learn everything that I need to learn, and I will read and I will research and I will listen to podcasts and I will practice. And
practice on your husband maybe for persuading what kind of TV shows you want to watch, you know?
Yeah, that's really nice. My children don't pay any attention to me, so it doesn't work. Doesn't work with them.
Okay.
But maybe with him. So so I invested a lot of time and a significant amount of money into kind of building my skills and being more comfortable with the space. So September 2020 was when I jumped on Upwork for the first time. I started off with a lot of content, so a lot of blog articles, and a little bit of kind of conversion sales copy, and then discovered that was what I liked doing more. So more of that kind of lent into that a little bit more. And with every project and with every client, you learn something new. You get better at certain things. You hone your skills. And then last year, no, that's 2023. I don't remember what year we are.
Beginning 2023.
Beginning of
July.
Yeah.
Oh, June. June. We're still in June. Yeah.
The beginning of 2022. I moved to 3 days a week, and then in the September of 2022, things had exploded, and I had too much work and not enough time. So I went full time, and my husband scaled back his hours so he could do all the things that you have to do with kids.
Very cool. So, but what about the hours? Like roughly, is it full time?
So I will normally start work around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then I'll generally finish about 4, but because I work internationally, time zones are a bit of an issue. So probably no more than 2 days a week, I will have some evening calls with clients who are kind of, in Canada or somewhere in America, or I have a client who's in Australia. That's an interesting, mathematical equation when it comes to time. So,
like scheduling is a challenge there.
Yeah. So so I will mostly 8:30, 9 o'clock until 4, and then a couple of days a week be in the evenings.
And no weekends.
Sometimes a Saturday if I balance it with, but then I take a Wednesday off. It depends what's going on with family and things like that.
You try to be strict on that for yourself, or just because the family stuff comes in between and you want to spend time with your kids, or you have to spend time?
Yeah, no, I quite like spending time with them occasionally. Yeah. Yes, I really enjoy my work. Mm-hmm. 90% of the time. Nobody enjoys their work 100% of the time. It'd be nice to be sat on the beach in Bali somewhere, but but I know that even something that I enjoy, if I get too focused on it too long, then I will eventually burn out, and then I want to burn it all down, which is
smart,
not very helpful. So I try to be a bit more balanced. Now that kind of revenue is a bit more sustainable than it was kind of when I started, I have the freedom to do that.
Yeah. Really nice. Okay. So we were at the part where you were talking about the social media platforms, and then you mentioned that because of the ideal client was mostly on LinkedIn, and we came to these social media platforms while asking you what software tools you were using. You mentioned Canva, that you were using that for creating content on social media and LinkedIn and Instagram, basically. Anything else? So I think we were at 80% at all the software tools you are using.
So for scheduling, because it is often complicated, I use Calendly.
For scheduling your meetings with your clients.
Yeah. And that's really great because it shows them the time zone, when the meeting is in their time zone, and me when the meeting is in my time zone. So that means that I don't end up scheduling things when I'm asleep, which is always helpful. So I use the paid version of that because then I can have different types of meetings. So if I've got an inquiry, like a sales call, then I've got one kind of setup. And if it's a longer kickoff call with a client, then I might need more time. I might need more space either side of my meetings to kind of deal with notes and transcriptions and stuff. So Calendly gives me that flexibility to have different types of meetings, and it all gets automated, and people get sent reminders, and I get sent reminders, and
it's a nice tool.
It's good. Is there anything else? Look at my thing. And I use ConvertKit. Everything begins with C. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use ConvertKit. I have an email list that I send out mostly weekly emails.
How many people are on your list right now?
About 300, I think, roundabout. It's a mix of...
Sorry.
It's a mix of different audiences. So some are kind of my ideal audience, potential clients. Some are fellow copywriters and marketers who just kind of like want to know what I think about stuff. And so because I have a membership where I help business owners with a social conscience talk about kind of politics and values in their messaging. It's called the Soapbox. And so sometimes on my list, I talk about that as well. So yeah.
And that membership is where is that membership hosted?
So it's In Circle, which is another C.
Yeah.
Which is
another C.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird. I think SaaS companies need to like be slightly more original with their namings.
Yeah.
So it's hosted In Circle, and we have discussions. There's a course in there that kind of takes you through getting started, talking about your values and
you are the host of the entire community, or okay, cool, cool. For how long is that going on?
So that started in January, so it's kind of like it's a baby community at the moment. But
and you used your newsletter to promote that community.
Yeah, and different podcasts that I was on as well. So pulling people back. ConvertKit's great. You can make landing pages really easily for the different things that you're promoting to people, or different reasons that you want to capture their email list. You can send automations. So I've got my welcome sequence all set up for new people who join. And then I have my general kind of broadcast weekly emails where I talk about marketing and life and politics and things like that.
Not specifically copywriting.
So copywriting and messaging. But yeah, it tends to be, it's not really a tips and tricks like this is how to do copywriting. It's more ideas around marketing, ideas around messaging, how to talk a lot about how to connect more with your audience, talk about ethical marketing, so how not to be manipulative, that kind of thing.
And do you have any sources that you use in those newsletters, or is it only based on your own experiences? Or
so again, I'm always reading, always listening, always learning. Yeah. So there are some great podcasts that I listen to. There's one called Dupe, which is about that's about the coaching and course creation space, and how not to be manipulative. There is there are so many.
And then you share your 2 cents on the podcast, and you share a link or something, or that's the
yeah. So and I might have a rant about something that I've seen or listened to that I completely disagree with, which is always quite fun. Okay. So yeah, talks that I've been to, articles that I've read, posts that I've seen on LinkedIn. It's basically, just my reflections.
Yeah. And how many people are in your community right now?
So there are about 10 people in my community right now. So it's still it's a baby community.
It's a paid community or a free one?
It's paid. So it's $49 a month. And you get access to fortnightly Q&As with me. And then we have expert speakers come in and talk about different things. And then there's a course that you work through, and
a copywriting course, or
no? So it's a course on basically how to share your values online without annoying everybody or making all your clients run away. So it starts off by working out what the causes are that really matter to you and what you think about them, moving through kind of dialogue with your audience to find out what matters to them, and then tips on being consistent and being authentic in what you share and what you talk about, kind of how to deal with people who disagree with you online, like how to kind of have those conversations, ranting, massive arguments, all that kind of thing.
And is there a reason that you're not focusing on copywriting that much in your newsletter and community? It's because I feel like your community and your newsletter is a little bit more broad than what you do on Upwork, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a strategy behind that, or is it more personal interest and preference? Or?
Yeah, so there are a lot of emails and courses and memberships and communities that teach people how to be copywriters.
Okay.
And I am not, although I am very good at what I do, I'm not an expert lecturer, teacher level copywriter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily interested in building a following of baby copywriters who need me to tell them how to do things. I'm much more interested in having the bigger conversations. And they can go elsewhere to learn copywriting, but they don't need to come to me. So I don't see the point in adding to that noise and trying to be in competition with people who have been doing it for longer than I have, and have been teaching for longer than I have. There's no point in replicating what is already out there. I would rather provide something new, so a slightly different perspective on marketing, or a slightly different perspective on using persuasive language, or or a slightly different perspective on balancing running a business with all the other stuff that's going on in your life. To me, that's a lot more interesting, and it seems like my community thinks, my audience thinks it's a lot more interesting too.
And how do you come up with the idea of the community?
So I had a lot of conversations with people. Most of my ideas come from conversations with people, and
through Instagram, or
so people that I met in online communities, or people that I met on Instagram, and I was having a lot of conversations with people who were like, terrible things keep happening in the world, and it feels like every time they do, I need to put up a post about what I think about it, or I need to put up a black square, or I need to make sure I've got the right logo on my profile. And they would say to me that I care about these things, but I also, like, I'm running a business, and if I'm posting about all these things all the time and I'm not posting about running my business, then essentially what I am is a campaigning organization on Instagram. Like, I'm not a business. So how do I weave those things into the rest of my messaging in a way that makes sense, and in a way that my audience can kind of resonate with, so I don't have to like leave my conscience at the door when I start posting about my business, but I can also sell the things that I'm doing in a sensitive way.
There were questions you were getting from like posts you were posting on Instagram, for example.
Yeah, so people would talk to me about it in DMs in Instagram, in the networking communities that I was in. Like, they would be asking me, like, I don't know how to do this.
You're in paid networking communities?
A couple. So I'm in a real life one. A BNI one on a weekly basis. I'm in a mastermind with the Copywriter Club, their think tank. And I've been in, over the last few years, I've been in various kind of different ones.
That's what you were saying, that you spent a lot of money on courses to teach you to educate you on copywriting.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, on the top of your head, like, how much you spend roughly on courses for copywriting?
No, that would be terrifying to even know.
But is it like lower than 5,000 or higher?
Oh, definitely higher than 5,000. Yeah.
Okay. Higher than 10,000.
So I think if you're just looking at courses, then probably I would say over the 2-3 years that I've been doing it, I would say probably around $10,000. And then
on how many separate courses and communities?
I would say 4 main ones, I think, at different points. So like a beginner's one when I started, and then and then a few more kind of leading through.
You feel they're all worth it, like, or maybe one of them are definitely worth it, or?
So the beginner copywriting course at the beginning, I thought it was brilliant because I didn't know anything about copywriting.
Yeah. Okay.
Now looking back, it really didn't tell me what I needed to know, other than the like incredible basics.
Yeah.
And now I know the space a little bit better. I would and have recommended a different kind of beginner course to other people. So Alex Catoni is kind of, well, all of her offerings are brilliant. So she's got like the launch files, which is her kind of copywriting course she does. And then she's got different digital courses that focus on different elements of copywriting. So there's an email one, there's a sales page one, there's a brand voice one. And they are incredible value. And I think I've done lots of her individual ones, but going back, if I could go back to the beginning and start again, I would do her launch files over and above anything else.
But you didn't do them now? Like
I've done all her individual ones now, and I've caught up. But I think if I'd started with that, I would have had a much better base than I did.
Okay. So do you have any regret on purchasing 1 or 2 courses? Or not really?
I think that, so I took I did the Filthy Rich Writer one. I think it's called the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy at the beginning. That was the first one I did, and it was fine. And back then, I thought it was incredible. It was like revelatory. but I think it's too basic for anybody who wants to build a strategic long-term business.
Now, curious actually, like on your costs, your cost basis. So you mentioned that you're bringing in like to 75 to actually 100K, so 75,000 from Upwork these last 12 months, and 100 from like including the separate revenue streams like LinkedIn, maybe Instagram. So that means basically you have roughly 40,000 in costs these past 12 months. Yeah. Is that including maybe paid communities, or?
Yeah, so that includes the mastermind that I'm currently part of, which is a 12-month thing, and that is $900 a month. That's pretty pricey, but it is massively worth it.
Which one was that?
So that's the Copywriter Club, their think tank, and that has massively transformed my business. So I joined in May last year in 2022, and immediately doubled my monthly revenue.
And why is that?
Connections to start with. So you're in a pool of people who are at a high level in their business or working towards a higher level in their business. You build a lot of trust with each other, and so you will refer work to each other that you don't want to do, or that you can't do, or that someone's told you about that's not in your niche. But also confidence, because I don't have decades of experience in marketing. I spent an awful lot of time thinking that I was winging it and that I didn't really know that much. And then joining that kind of community, having them look at your work, having them help you talk through your processes, gives you a huge amount of confidence. Like, I do actually know what I'm talking about. Like, and you don't have to have 10 years of experience in marketing to be successful at what I do. And working through, as part of being in that mastermind, helped me work through the skills that as a youth worker, as a counsellor, and how incredibly useful they are in a copywriting and messaging kind of strategy space.
They made you show that, like realize that was really useful for you and your career.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you have that confidence and you have those connections, I think you put yourself out there more, so you're more visible, so more people come to you for work. But also it helped me put up my prices because I placed a higher value on what I was bringing to my clients.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned like the mastermind. It does like it reverse your clients. It brings you more confidence. But how does it like practically? What does that practically mean? Do they have like a weekly call in, or is it just an online, maybe the circle community as well? Or
so they've got a Slack community, which is really great. So people post leads in there. People post bits of work in there that they want someone else's eyes on, just to get some kind of a different perspective. They have mindset coaching calls, so to kind of like iron out all those sticky things about money and work and stress and all that kind of thing. They have visibility coaching sessions, so they help you work out strategy for your business visibility on podcasts or LinkedIn.
Do you
or
every
Instagram.
week have a call, or is it just a monthly call?
Yeah, so
bi-weekly?
There's probably at least one call a week, and then there's a check-in, and you can kind of go and ask people questions. And then there are retreats as well. So I went to New Orleans in January to a retreat. I met some of them in person, which was really nice.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was cool. So, but it's great.
Yeah,
I think that's been probably
really
the
helpful.
most valuable thing that I've spent money on in my business.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like $900 you said per month, right? And what else? Can you talk about other costs involved, like the software cost, obviously? So how many percent of that 40K you have, like in the past 12 months, is like software costs?
I do not know. I'm afraid.
I don't think actually like the software tools you just mentioned. I think just a rough ballpark, probably less than 1,000, right?
Yeah,
a month, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
So yes, I'm not sure. Things like internet, obviously. Stuff like the going to the conference in New Orleans, and I went to another conference in Newcastle this week. So networking costs like that. Books, I buy too many books.
Yeah. Okay.
And then laptops and microphones and all that kind of stuff.
Any good book you recommend? You could recommend for us.
What am I reading at the moment?
Or one book that you have at the top of your mind that you feel like, okay, that that brought a lot of value to me.
Okay, so I've just finished Seth Godin's This is Marketing. That's a really good one. It's really accessible. You can kind of dip in and out of it. So that's really useful. And then I am reading this
So you're delving yourself entirely into the market scene, marketing scene.
I read all sorts of things. So Founding Sales by Peta Kazandi. And it's aimed at founders who have started their own businesses, but then realize that they need to like sell to people. And that wasn't really why they started. So it's got some really good, strategies in there to get them through that, to get a startup through the bit before they can hire a sales team when they're doing the big. So that's less for me, and more so
more
that so I can understand my clients. And I feel that like the more I can understand the problems that they're having and the things that they're going through, the more value I can offer, and the more kind of the better fit my advice is.
Do you always purchase hard copies or?
No, I don't. I have a Kindle because otherwise my suitcases get too heavy.
You don't like audiobooks?
No,
really.
Weirdly, I love podcasts. I will listen to them all day long and I will get loads out of them. I can't seem to follow an audiobook. I don't know why. So I have tried like several times. But it doesn't work for me. It's got to be like that.
I feel like when listening to an audiobook, it's just when I listen to a book and I feel like, okay, it was a nice book, but I don't want to read it again or something, it was good, but that's it. But sometimes I have this audiobook and I have like, okay, I need to delve into it a little bit more, and then I purchase maybe the ebook, so I reread it again, or maybe mark some things, or that's a little bit my process of reading books, because else I'm a really slow reader. So if I would read a book like a paperback, then it takes forever. My concentration is like everywhere, that's my problem.
Fair enough. I think mine is that I did I did an English literature A-level, and then I did like a sociology degree. So I am used to having a book that I can then write notes in the margin of.
Yeah,
and you can't do that with an audiobook.
But I would like to ask you some questions about investing, if you don't mind. Do you have any experience with investing? Do you do any investing, or personal investing, or for your future self, or because you're now self-employed in the UK? I think there is something in the UK. I'm not sure how it's called, but that you can invest as an entrepreneur, right? How's it called? A SIP? Is it called a SIP?
Oh yes.
Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. So I am in the process of setting up one of those. I have, from a previous career, I have like a pension pot that is kind of growing, and I have a stocks and shares ISA, that's managed through like a financial advisor kind of company. So I don't get involved a huge amount. It just like put money in and they go and do their thing, and then they send me a report, and that's great. So one of the things that I want to do this year, now that the business is more sustainable, is to become slightly more active. And there are lots of apps and things that have that make it easier. So I've got one called Plum, and they take a certain amount out of your account kind of at the end of every week or every month, like round things up or whatever. So tiny things build up, and then you can invest that and like manage all that through the app. So there's something that is my plan for this year.
Is it a broker, or what is it?
So it's just an app on my phone, and they deal with it all.
But is there like, will that money be invested, or is it just a savings account?
There's a savings account, and then there's an investment account. So you can decide what to put in either one of those, and you can draw the savings out whenever you want. So if you're saving for a holiday, then you'd put it all in there. So it's in a different account. You have to
decide where they invest your money, basically, or do they have certain strategies you can just pick?
So you give them guidelines, the type of things that you want to invest in, the type of risk that you're interested in or that you're comfortable with, and then they do that
thing.
That thing. Which is why I'm not in charge.
And what about the costs involved in using that app or their service?
So I mean, fairly minimal. So there's
maybe if I can add on that, because the reason I'm asking is because like in investing, if you already, you know, sometimes it says there is a 1% fee of your entire your entire budget or your entire number you have invested with us, which might seem really low, but it really adds up when you have like a decade of investing experience. I've read a couple of books, and then that's the number one key, is that you should have those costs as low as possible. So, for example, I know Vanguard. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
a little bit.
With Vanguard. They have really like low cost ETFs, for example, you can invest in, and it's like I think 0.0 something.
Oh wow!
You know, if you're that's why I'm asking basically. So, were you focused on cost as well, or was it just like, okay, that app is really? It seems like it's a really handy app, and I'm just going to use that app.
I think at the moment for me, to get into the habit, ease needs to be at the forefront. So I think like their product management, a product provider fee is like, I think 0.4%. And then there's a 0.06% like fund management fee.
So 0.06%?
Yes.
So what you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty low.
Yeah. So but yeah, I mean obviously that's a consideration. But the main consideration for me right now is that if it's not easy, then I won't do it, because life is busy.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, cool. So you are investing, so that's really good. What's your future roadmap? How do you want to plan your business for the next 5 years, for example? Do you have? Can you answer that question?
So the plan is to launch a podcast, to kind of match with the community, and to use that as the vehicle to encourage more people to join, which will build up that revenue stream for my business. In terms of client work and the rest of my business, the aim is to continue working with those higher level clients and to focus on my signature package, which is the brand messaging package. So to become more known for someone who helps brands develop messaging that works. And I would like to focus more in on the politics route. So I'm exploring, whereas my community was started because partly I felt like I needed somewhere to talk about politics because I'm really interested in politics, and it was a nice little kind of side thing. With the increase in brands who are getting into trouble, like Target and Bud Light, by moving into like the campaigning or the activism space, but not doing it properly, and then it all blowing up in their faces. I think there's a big opportunity for somebody like me to help brands do that more effectively. And so I think that's where I'm going to be pushing my messaging over the next kind of 12 months, so that everything then aligns, like the podcast and the community and my client work. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Do you feel there are a lot of customers on Upwork that are in that politic scene, or that?
I think there's probably a mix. I think that there will always be people who just want websites and don't really want to talk about values, and that's fine. That's great. Whatever works for you. But I think there will be more and more brands that realize that they have to do that. So Sprout Social released a report at the beginning of this year, like their consumer spending survey, and they found that 73% of consumers want to know what a brand thinks about sensitive issues, and that's part of what they base their purchasing decisions on. And with younger generations, that's even more pronounced. People want to spend money with brands that align with their beliefs and align with their values. And so the more brands can make that obvious in a way that makes sense with their messaging and with their products, the more they can tap into that market. So it makes sense from a financial perspective. Yeah.
Do you have time for one last question?
Sure.
Yeah, and that would be the start of your Upwork career. So now you have like a really good foundation. You're making good profits, but it wasn't always like that. Obviously, when you started in 2020, right? 2020 you started.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips or advice for people that are just starting up on Upwork or on any freelancing career? How you can weather that storm in the beginning? That that initial phase of getting those first clients?
Yeah. So under promise and over deliver.
But if you under promise, how would you get the clients?
Well,
Right?
like not as an under promise, like say, all of my work is going to be terrible,
Yeah.
and then finally it's really, really good. But
Yeah.
so another way of phrasing it would be like surprise and delight your clients.
Okay.
So every job that you get should be an opportunity to go above and beyond. Like your job with those first few clients. So normally about like, I don't know, 5 to 10, like your first few clients on the platform, your job is to make sure that they give you the most glowing reviews that you have ever seen, because that is what will almost like open the door to the next room in Upwork.
Yeah.
That will be your kind of your card, your invitation, because people can see that you do good work and that you deliver on your promises and that you are a nice person to work with. So if you can do that with your first few clients.
Was it hard for you, the initial stage, or emotionally?
The hardest thing for me at the beginning was people not replying to proposals.
Yeah. You put a lot of time into those proposals, and then no one's responding.
Yeah, and I think
it's demotivating.
It was very demotivating, and I had to remove myself from. I had to tell myself that that had absolutely nothing to do with my self-worth.
Yeah,
like it wasn't about me. Like it was about them, and it was about the other people that they were that they were in conversations with. I made it into a routine as part of my day. So I would spend like half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon, sending proposals, finding jobs, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I would try different stuff out, like different ways of phrasing it, different kind of tones or whatever. But because that was the routine, it was more about
like
ticking
1 hour
off.
per day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 in the evening.
It was more about ticking things off the list than it was about laying myself out in front of these people and going, pick me.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful.